here are some things that I wish I had considered before leaving, especially without like the job and all of that. So the first was or is a daily routine and how choosing a neighborhood can affect your daily routine. So I work from home, I work remote, and obviously, there's the convenience of that, which I love. But the other part of it is at least for me, the noise level. So, okay, I love the neighborhood that I'm in. Let me preface that by it's beautiful here. The view outside of my window is gorgeous. The neighborhood is very safe. And if you guys don't know, I'm in Mexico. And so, in choosing where we wanted to live, there were several things on my list. But the one thing I did not do, and I would advise anybody else to do, is that when you narrow in on a neighborhood or a house, apartment, condo, whatever, go to that neighborhood in different times of the day, right? When my mom and I came to see this place, we only came one time, and it was in the middle of the day when everybody was gone to work and most of the children, the older children, were gone to school. And so the neighborhood was pretty quiet. We move in, and I realize like I am woken up by dogs barking in the courtyard. And in the evening, there's the kids who have gotten out of school, and they're running around. So they're loud. And then it feels like everybody and their mama in this neighborhood has a dog. And a lot of people have multiple dogs. So in the afternoon and evening, you are hearing people's dogs too. And for someone like me, I'm very sensitive to noise, and I am not a morning person. So I am living in noise canceling headphones and trying to mitigate the sound here so that I can hear myself think. And it's funny because like my first apartment, when I first came down here years ago, um, it was next to a major highway in the city. And so the windows and were soundproof, right? So like the sliding door out to the balcony was soundproof, all of the windows were soundproofed. And I loved that. But I also had a neighbor who had like five dogs. It was one woman with five dogs, and those dogs used to fight. She would leave. She would leave and go to work, and she would have this kid. She would have somebody come and like clean the apartment a few times a week. And then she would have this kid who would come. I mean, he was probably like 10 or 11 years old, probably just making a little bit of money, right? He would come and take the dogs downstairs for a walk and let them, like relieve themselves and run around and all of that. And so the kid would come, take the dog. Sometimes I would see him and say hi, and then he would leave. Y'all, I remember there were a couple of times when I would be sitting in my house, I'd be sitting in my living room at my computer having a meeting with my supervisor, and those dogs would get to fight. Those dogs would get to fighting. And like I remember one time, the first time it happened, my supervisor was like, "What is that sound?" Now, mind you, I am on my company issued laptop. It is a MacBook. The system here is actually really great when it comes to background noise. Like it can cut out most background noise. These dogs barking and fighting was so loud that my manager could hear. I was mortified. I was mortified. But it was just this hilarious moment. And so all of that to say, if you are someone that works from home, if you are someone who's sensitive to noise, sensitive to, all of that, and also just to make sure that the neighborhood is safe and it is as advertised, right? Visit maybe in the morning, mid-morning, and visit in the afternoon/evening if you can, just to get a feel for the space at different times of day. That was my bad. I wish I had done that sooner because if I could have experienced this neighborhood in the evening, like last night, I went for a walk around my neighborhood, like out of the apartment complex and into the rest of the neighborhood. And it was my first time really going for a walk after dark and by myself after dark. And it was really busy. it's again like everybody had gotten off of work. Folks were out walking their dogs, people were out walking with their kids. There were kids at like there's this playground that's kind of in the middle in this like what is like a roundabout. There are a lot of different roundabouts here, and they all have greenery, green spaces, and benches that you can sit down on. And then there's like this big park in the middle of the road, which sounds a little, but it's beautiful, right? And it's really nicely laid out. And there are parents with their kids, like riding on slides and everything. It's really nice. It's really nice. Um, but again, so many dogs. So most days I'm hearing dogs barking and kids playing and dogs barking. So if that's not what you want, I think it's just really smart to visit your neighbor. If you're interested in a neighborhood, you're interested in an apartment complex, visit it multiple times and at different times of day so you get a better feel for what you're going for what you're like buying into. The second thing I wish I had really paid attention to and considered before leaving has to do with relocating with family members. Double check, especially if, and this is for the folks who, maybe you have not been living or you haven't been living close to your elderly parents for a while, and you decide you want to relocate and they want to come with you, you want to bring them with you. Double check and make sure that whatever health insurance they have in your home country travels with them. Don't assume. And depending on how savvy and with it your elderly family member is, don't take their word for it. Um, Go ahead and listen. I will 100% own the fact that I am new to this world of being like somewhat of a caretaker. Um, my parents are in their mid 60s and they have been quite healthy the majority of their lives. But I would say in the past 4 or 5 years, we've had some really scary moments. And I, the first year I left, my dad got really, really sick and I had to go back home. And what was supposed to be a 2 week visit ended up being 2 months because he could not, the doctor was like, he can't stay home by himself. So I stayed and then left again. This time, my mother had decided that she wanted to get residency as well. And, she was already retiring. So I was like, well, why don't we just get a place together? And so fast forward, she is under the impression that her insurance is going to travel with her. I'm taking her word for it. Within 48 hours, y'all, within 48 hours of her arriving and getting settled, she has a fainting spell. Long story short, and this is something, I'll talk more about this in a separate, I feel like this is a topic of conversation that needs its own, like it needs its own time. But all of that to say, because of the incredible doctors here, we found out that she had a major medical condition. And because we could not get her local private health insurance in time, we decided to take her back home so that she could get the medical care she needed. And she's healthy, she's good, she's recovering. But I say all that to say, double check, make the phone calls. I know phone calls are so annoying, but make the phone calls, read the literature, get good and clear on what is available and what's not outside of the country. Because if you don't, this is one of the things that travel influencers don't talk about enough. Yes, medical care in most other places outside of the United States is, in fact, excellent and relatively affordable, considering what you would end up paying in the States. That said, most of these hospitals, they are going to make you pay for the entire procedure before you leave. So if you come down here and the insurance does not cover said procedure, they will expect you to pay. It doesn't matter. And then also, we are not Mexican, we are foreigners. And the doctor at the time did not know that we had residency, both of us. And at one point, he said that we needed to have a guarantor. We needed to have someone, a Mexican person, that they could hold responsible if we skipped out on the bill. So these are things that you don't hear enough from influencers about the medical system outside of the United States. Um, so those are things to consider. You know, make sure that your health insurance will cover you in the event of an emergency outside of the United States. And I would also say, especially if you have dependents of any age, go ahead, do your due diligence, and get local health insurance as quickly as possible. It is gonna make life so much easier. And finally, the last thing that I wish I had paid more attention to before leaving, um, and upon, moving to a new country, is the importance of community. Now, at the beginning of this video, I talked a little bit about my first stint outside of the US. I kind of had a ready-made community because I was an English teacher and I was able to meet so many other English teachers during my orientation. And then once I moved to my city. And that was wonderful because then I kind of had a built-in, um, um, group of folks that I could go to if I was struggling or, just people to hang out with on a regular basis. Well, when you leave without that scaffolding and you are either just working remote or you're an entrepreneur, really focus, make it a point. And I'm saying this as someone who is a loner. I am a loner, okay? I am a little bit of a hermit. I was an only child until about 10 years old. And so my formative years were spent by myself or with other adults. And that kind of shaped me, right? And so I'm very good at being by myself. But there is a difference between being independent and a loner in your home country and being independent and a loner in a place where you don't have community, you're new, maybe you don't speak the language fluently. It is a whole different ballgame. And so, if you, I get it, I get it. Like, I don't always have the energy to get out there and meet new people and do the thing. But if you can push yourself, even if it's just once a month, and I'm preaching to the choir here, this is something that I need to do. Um, Even if it's just once a month to go and meet new people, it's going to make the transition into living in your new place that much easier. Ooh, and especially if you move with family, because it's very easy to just become insular and be each other's um, besties or like focus so much on your kid and on your partner or your aging parents or whatever that you don't give yourself a chance to get connected with other people in your neighborhood and in your new city. Try to resist that. Try. I know it's hard. And again, I'm preaching to myself. I've been invited to several different things since I got back, and I haven't gone to any of them. So I'm speaking to me too. But, you know, get into community, not to belabor the point. Okay. Those are the three things that I would say I wish I had considered before leaving. Number one, my neighborhood and its effect on my daily routine. Number two, if you're leaving with family members, double check health status and health insurance. Make sure your health insurance travels, and if it doesn't, do what you can to get covered before you leave. And number three, get into community. All right, y'all, that's my post for today. I would love to hear from you in the comments if you have any questions or want to complain. I don't know what you people do on YouTube. And we'll talk to you tomorrow.